My boyfriend dumped me for the pettiest reason after 6 years of me paying every bill and supporting every failed scheme he chased. But he forgot one crucial detail. The house is mine. The deed is in my name. And now he's living in his car while I finally take back my peace. My boyfriend ended things for the pettiest reason after I backed him for years. But he seems to have forgotten a tiny detail. The deed is in my name. Now he's sleeping in his car. Before I get into it, here's the groundwork. I've been with Finn for 6 years. 6 long, starry-eyed years that I thought meant love, loyalty, and a frankly Olympic level of patience. By patience, I mean I paid for everything while he pinballed between grand ideas. There was the YouTube channel destined to eclipse PewDiePie that never made it past a handful of uploads. Then the NFT wave he swore he was surfing early. He wasn't. And a crypto phase that ended with most of his savings evaporating. Through every pivot, I kept us afloat. Mortgage?
Me.
Utilities?
Me.
Groceries?
Still me.
Car payments? Guess who? Finn was the visionary. I was the believer funding the vision. Every time he rolled up with another lightbulb moment, eyes shining, saying this time it would finally take off, I swallowed the doubt and said okay. I told myself we were partners. I told myself he just needed time. About 2 weeks ago, the vibe shifted. He got oddly distant, glued to his phone, making vague comments about needing space to grow and finding himself. Not new territory. He waxes philosophical whenever he's about to chase a new hobby, but then he started nitpicking the house. He'd point to a sink of dishes or a basket of clean but unfolded laundry with this condescending tone I'd never heard from him. Then, last week, he sat me down at the kitchen table wearing that intense face he usually saves for announcing another failed venture. What came out of his mouth made me wonder if I'd slipped into an alternate timeline. I think we should break up, he said. You don't do enough around the house. I laughed. Out loud. Then his expression didn't change, and something in me snapped into place. The man I've practically been mothering for 6 years was accusing me of slacking. I asked him to explain because surely he wasn't serious, and he doubled down. You never clean up after yourself, and I do all the emotional labor. I'm always the one reminding you what needs to be done. Let me set the record straight. I work brutal hours to keep us afloat while he conceptualizes his next big move from home. Do I sometimes leave a mug on the counter or kick my shoes off by the door?
Sure.
But I also pay every single bill that keeps the lights on and food in the fridge. Meanwhile, his contributions included reorganizing the bookshelf by genre 3 separate times and purging my perfectly good Tupperware because it didn't spark joy. This is the same guy who spirals if the Wi-Fi blinks for 5 minutes. Guess who calls the provider every time?
Me.
Every holiday plan?
Me.
Every reservation, gift, weekend activity?
Me.
He won't even order takeout without triple-checking my order and still getting it wrong. Here's where it veers into delusion. After delivering his breakup speech, he started acting like the house was already his. He told me this would be a great reset for both of us and suggested I crash with my mom. He floated turning the guest room into his office once I moved out, and even mentioned getting a dog since there won't be anyone around to complain about shedding. That's when it clicked. He either forgot or never bothered to absorb who actually owns this place.
Hint, not him.
This house is my inheritance from my grandparents. The deed, the mortgage, the utilities, everything has my name on it. I excused myself, went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and decided I wasn't going to debate him. I'd let him enjoy his fantasy for as long as he wanted. Let him think he'd already won. Because he had no idea what was coming. Update 1 in my last little saga, Finn, now officially X, dumped me because I supposedly didn't do enough chores. Which is hilarious, considering I've been bankrolling our lives for years while he worked on himself. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, and yes, cooked and cleaned when I wasn't too exhausted to lift a finger. Meanwhile, his favorite chores were anything to do with his gaming setup. Within minutes of the breakup, his entitlement blossomed. He didn't say the words, but the way he moved around the house screamed, "This is mine now." He sprawled everywhere, left messes like breadcrumbs, and gamed until 4 a.m. like nothing had changed. He even started telling me what to box up, so I could leave in an organized way. I kept my mouth shut and waited to see how far he'd push it. Spoiler, very far. About a week later, he mentioned a friend was coming over. He barely looked at me, muttering about respecting his space. Respect his space. In my house. I nodded and waited to see who would show. When the doorbell rang, I opened it to a woman holding a bottle of wine and a big smile. Mila. She was sweet, polite, and obviously not just a friend. The way she looked at Finn told me everything. He didn't even bother with introductions. He swept past me like I was hired help and started giving Mila a tour of my home like he'd just closed on it. Here's the living room, thinking a more modern couch would really tie it together. Here's the kitchen, love the open layout for hosting. This is my office. It's where I do most of my work. Work. The man hasn't had a job since 2018. The office he referenced is the spare room I set up in case he ever did freelance. It mostly houses Fortnite and Dust. Mila seemed delighted, already picturing herself in a Pinterest spread. I stood in the kitchen, gripping my mug so tight I thought it might shatter. Two options: blow up and nuke the evening or play it cool and let him bury himself. I picked door number 2. All night, he acted like he'd graciously allowed me to linger while I got my life together. He even pulled me aside to say, "We should set a timeline for you to be out. No rush, but Mila and I need to start planning." Planning what? A housewarming in my living room? I smiled and said, "Don't worry about me. Everything's handled." His smug little grin could have powered the block. The next morning, I made the call. While he snored, I brought in a locksmith and had every lock changed. It took under an hour. I paid, thanked the guy, brewed tea, and waited. When Finn finally wandered into the kitchen, I casually said, "By the way, I changed the locks this morning. You'll need to pack your things and be out by the end of the day." He went paper white. "What do you mean you changed the locks? You can't do that." "Oh, I absolutely can. This is my house. My name's on the deed. Yours isn't on anything. And now you're not welcome here." He tried everything, arguing, pleading, guilt-tripping. "I thought you loved me. I thought we were building something." Mila showed up mid-meltdown, expecting another cozy night. Instead, she watched him frantically pack while I reminded him not to forget his precious gaming chair. She kept asking, "Wait, this isn't your house?" He didn't answer. By sunset, they were both gone. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the very couch he wanted to replace, and let the relief wash over me. I had been so close to losing everything because I confused generosity with responsibility. Never again. For anyone curious, Finn's couch surfing didn't last. A mutual friend said Mila bailed as soon as she realized he was jobless, broke, and essentially homeless. Funny how the truth has a way of landing. Update 2: I thought that would be the end, but Finn had fresh embarrassment in the chamber. A few days later, our mutual friend Caleb called to check in, which sounded a lot like fishing. I asked if Finn put him up to it, and after some hemming and hawing, he admitted it. Turns out Finn had been staging this breakup for months. He'd been telling anyone who'd listen that he was about to take control of the house and start a new era. He cast himself as the patient boyfriend who endured my nagging for years and claimed the house was practically his because of all the effort he put into making it a home. I had to stop Caleb because I was laughing too hard. What effort? The man barely manages his own laundry. I asked if Finn had mentioned the little legal tidbit about the deed. Caleb said Finn figured I'd leave when asked, and if I didn't, he'd figure it out. Oh, Finn. Bless his delusional optimism. Apparently, he'd even started his victory lap before the breakup, bragging that he'd finally be free to focus and making plans for a housewarming party. Again, in my home. I decided to end the narrative spin. I sent a calm, factual group message to our mutuals. I clarified that the house is 100% mine. Finn never paid a cent toward the mortgage or utilities, and any claims that he'd built our life were fiction. I included screenshots of old utility statements and the deed with only my name on it. No drama, just documentation. Then I called a local nonprofit that helps furnish homes and donated every last bit of Finn's leftover junk. The unused desk, a couch he never sat on, and yes, the gaming chair he abandoned in his rush. They were thrilled to take it. I was thrilled to watch it go. I also reached out to his parents. They'd always been kind, and they deserved the truth. I didn't drag him, but I explained enough to make it clear his sob story was a fairy tale.
They were horrified.
They apologized, said they had no idea, and his mom even offered to reimburse some bills he ran up. I declined. I didn't want their money, just clarity. Weeks later, I bumped into Mila at a coffee shop. She walked over, cheeks flushed, and apologized for getting involved. She said he'd lied about everything, including claiming the house situation was mutual. Then she delivered the kicker. Finn was living in his car. His friends had stopped offering couches after hearing the truth, and his parents weren't rescuing him either. I don't wish homelessness on anyone, but in this case, I can't pretend to be heartbroken. He made his bed, well, backseat, and now he's in it. Update 3. Remember when I said Finn wasn't done trying to reclaim his house? Grab a snack. I was having lunch with my sister, Nora, when she got cagey, checking her phone and giving me looks. Finally, I asked what was going on. She winced. Please don't be mad, but Finn contacted me last week. I almost spat my drink. He'd been telling people we had a verbal agreement about the house, that we were basically married. We weren't, and that he'd contributed substantially. He hadn't. Then he asked her for money. Not coffee money. Enough to get back on his feet and fight for what's rightfully his. And she gave it to him. Before you heat up, hear me out. Nora is usually the smartest person in the room, but he fed her a carefully curated sob story about investing everything into our relationship and being homeless because of me. He even showed screenshots of a couple of bills he'd paid years ago, bills paid with my money, of course. How much? I asked. 2,000, she mumbled. I was about to lose it when she slid her phone over. As I read, my anger morphed into respect. She hadn't just handed him cash. She made him sign a formal IOU with repayment terms and interest. She even had him put his car up as collateral. When I asked why she went to those lengths, she smirked. Because I knew he was full of it. I wanted proof of how desperate he's gotten, and I figured a documented loan might be useful later. I could have hugged her. Then Caleb sent me screenshots of Finn's latest social media spin. According to Finn, I'm a calculated gold digger who put up with his unemployment for 6 years just to steal his future earnings. Future earnings from what, exactly? The projects I funded that never launched? He'd plastered vague accusations about me manipulating him and taking advantage of his trusting nature. In his new script, he supported me emotionally while I was unstable. This from the guy who had a 3-hour meltdown because I bought the wrong brand of energy drink. It got messy, eh? My friend Zoe has been keeping tabs on who he's contacting. Depending on the audience, his story changes. To some, I'm a manipulative ex. To others, he's the martyr who sacrificed everything for me. To a select few, we had a business partnership that I betrayed. He even told someone I promised to add him to the deed as a birthday present but switched out of spite. Creative, especially for a man who once forgot my birthday entirely because he was laser-focused on becoming a Twitch star. Yesterday, he sent me a chain of unhinged messages about how he's going to expose me. He threatened to tell everyone my secrets, which is hilarious considering I'm the one who knows about his cratered crypto buys and that brief stint where he tried to become a professional dog photographer with my camera. I didn't reply. I did, however, save everything. Something tells me this ride isn't over. Now that he's probably burned through Nora's loan, my bet is another get-rich-quick scheme. He'll cook up a new angle. Final update last Sunday, I was doing my usual grocery run when I almost ran cart first into Finn's mom. I tried to smile and keep moving, but she stopped me and said, "We need to talk." She's always been kind to me, but this time she looked worried and a little angry. We grabbed coffee, and she took a breath. "I need to tell you what Finn's been doing. This has gone too far." He'd showed up at their house with a wild story about how he was getting the house back. According to him, he had evidence I tricked him into putting all the bills in my name and proof he'd handed me cash for the down payment. She cut him off and reminded him she and his dad were there when I bought the place before he even moved in. He barreled on, saying he was building a case and needed them to fund his mission. When they refused, he blew up, accusing them of never supporting his dreams and siding with me. Then she told me things I didn't know. He'd been telling his younger sister that he bought me out months ago and needed to borrow money to renovate his property. She's 19 and believed him. She gave him her savings. He'd been bouncing between relatives peddling whatever version of the story worked. To some, we were secretly married. To others, I promised him the house in exchange for sweat equity. He even told his grandmother I was holding his gaming gear hostage. That same gear had gone to charity months earlier. She showed me her phone. He'd launched a GoFundMe titled, "Help Local Man Reclaim His Home from Manipulative Ex." I nearly choked. The page was packed with fiction about investing his life savings, what savings, and me manipulating paperwork to cut him out. He posted pictures of my house and claimed he'd done all the renovations himself. The only renovation he ever did was rearranging furniture to procrastinate applying for jobs. The worst part? People donated. Not a windfall, but around $800, enough for him to think he'd cracked it. She reported it and had it pulled down. For the past week, he'd been sleeping in his car in their driveway, refusing to come inside unless they backed his crusade. Every morning, he'd leave for meetings about reclaiming the house. Every night, he returned with new tales of progress. She finally snapped when she overheard him trying to convince Mila to be a character witness. Mila apparently laughed and hung up. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy," she said. "I'm telling you so you can be prepared. He won't stop until he has to." Then she did something unexpected. She handed me a small photo album. Inside were pictures of Finn from the last few years, holidays, family dinners, casual afternoons. In every single one, he was on a phone or a laptop supposedly working, while everyone else lived their lives. "I should have seen it," she whispered. "How he uses people. How there's always an angle. I enabled it for too long. I'm sorry you got pulled in." I tried to return the album, but she shook her head.
Keep it.
Maybe one day he'll want to see who he became. For now, I have to do what I should have done years ago. She told me she and his dad had made a decision. They're changing their locks and cutting off his Wi-Fi access. No more camping in the driveway. No more enabling the delusion. They've arranged for him to stay with an uncle in another state who offered him an actual job. No screens. No schemes. Just work. He either takes it and gets it together or he figures it out alone. They're done watching him try to wreck other people's lives because he refuses to build his own. As we stood to leave, she hugged me and said, "Thank you for showing him there are consequences. I just wish he'd learn from them." I watched her walk away feeling a cocktail of emotions, relief that his family finally sees him clearly, and grief for the version of him that could have existed if he'd chosen reality over fantasy.